Hello and welcome to Noobs in Progress. My name is Nathan, and here with me I have.
Ethan Murphy, Nathan Beatty's friend.
Hello, Ethan. How are you doing today?
Sir! Sir,
Sir.
I am good because I bared witness to you bearing witness to Paul Giamatti. So I am 1,000 times better than you are, my friend. But for the sake of argument, how are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. It's been a day, let me tell you.
Yes.
It's been the last 45 minutes.
It's been usual for us. It's been usual for us. Yes. For those who you were wondering, we had a few dozen technical issues, but
just a few.
but we got most of them figured out. Some of them beat us, but we're here. And as always, I am glad to see you, my friend.
Yes.
It's been a whole 48 hours since I saw you, and that's way too long.
Yeah,
it's way too long. Way too long. Way too long.
I see you more than I see the warden.
And she is grateful.
You've talked to her recently?
Oops! Look at the time. I have to not be. So yeah, I see that you're having flashbacks to Amazing Spider-Man 2 as you're drinking again. You're like, I need to. It's still in your brain.
Have to roll back and prep right into that. Though for the viewers, you can see. Apparently, I really have gotten into the whole Paul Giamatti thing. Decided to go with the same tattoo. Yeah.
Right. And I wish I had known, because I would have dressed like Jamie Foxx Electro. That would be our matching Halloween costume this year.
Just would have been a blue, just
a blue half condom. Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Oh my God. Geez. Duralex or Duralax or something. I have no idea. It sounds like a laxative. Trying to come up with the name of a condom, and I'm coming up with names of laxatives over here.
I think Duralax. It's been a while since you had to use one, since you have 17 kids. But yeah, it's
feels like something.
Yes, my God. I guess you can always call me the Trojan Man. Just call me
Trojan Man. Oh my God. It's like those videos of people who take condoms and stick them out car windows, and you see how big they get, It's just like,
yes.
Wow.
Someone showing off. I don't fault you. Fault you.
So the movie.
Segue from that. Segue. I dare you. I dare you to segue from that.
I don't want to, to be honest.
No, I will not.
Yeah, I refuse. Well, yeah. So we watched The Amazing Spider-Man. We're gonna have, for those of you who are interested, we're gonna put on the feed as well. We're gonna put the audio of and the video as well of us watching The Amazing Spider-Man 2 together. Yeah. That.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, in all fairness, I did warn you that it was.
You did.
Yeah.
And I feel like such a tool. I'm so on brand. I've got the creativity and progress. I've got the shirt. and I didn't plan this. It's I got here, I'm taking the drink, and I'm like, holy shit, I look like I look like I should have one of those signs spinning on the side of the road. Anyway.
I'd pay thousands for that. I would definitely watch that for 2 hours as opposed to this movie again. Or two, actually, no, 2.5. I think it's 2.5 hours. Isn't the movie long as piss? Yeah.
God.
Yeah. No, I would gladly watch that. Thank you for being on brand. I am dressed like Batman, the wrong superhero, because I was confused. I gave the memo. But the film, which you have to remember above all else, first things first, you paid the rental fee. Yes, you did.
Yes.
But you did not pay full price at a movie theater, take a date to see it, and pretty much solidify that you would never see her again because of your choice in films. That was a bad day for nerds and a bad day for horny nerds.
Yeah. Oh my God. I just I can't. I've been thinking about this for a full week, and I still cannot fully wrap my head around how it got made. Like, uh, like we discussed this
Well,
briefly the other day.
you know how it got made.
Well,
Which,
yeah,
yeah, but as far as how this script got
yeah,
approved and how it got made in this way, and it got
yeah,
through all the channels to be allowed.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Like it makes me wonder if there was just like a certain point in the process where a producer or like the director or somebody is watching like one of the, like, maybe not the final cut, but like couple cuts before it, and they're watching it and they're going, what have we done? We can't, like, and we put too much
Yes.
money, like the cat's out of the bag. This is happening, but I don't know how to fix this. It's like I'm sure that happened. I am sure that happened sometime.
Oh, of course. Yeah, well, that's also why obviously Sony and them did make Amazing Spider-Man 3. And it did make money. It made like 700 or almost $800 million, I think it was. So
Yeah.
it definitely made money. It wasn't that they were like, oh, these movies were bombs. It's like, no, they were like, yeah, they didn't like it themselves. They're like, yeah, the public doesn't like it. We don't like it. We want a new direction.
Yeah.
Well, it reminds me of what you said that them what they.
Oh no, you good. You good.
Also, say it reminds me of what you said as far as the producers or the studio execs, what have you, watching the a more later cut of the movie and thinking to themselves, "What have we done?" It reminds me of that footage. I'm sure you've seen it before, where the producers of Episode 1 are watching it, and you see their reactions as far as like as it's ending. They're like, "What have we done?" They realize that the movie is pretty bad, and you see George in the back there sitting there, kind of like, "Huh." Even he's like, I'm not sure that came out like I wanted it to. So it's kind of the idea of like, as the slow realization this wafts over you like a burnt fart. Yeah, this may not be the best of things.
Oh God. Well, for me, like, I kind of liken it a little bit to like when you do when you're illustrating something. Because they, like, one of the first things you learn when you're learning illustration and graphic design and whatnot is always, often as you can, step back, get as far back from your piece as possible so you can see what's going on. And like, even, if you can flip it around, if like, especially with digital, you can like flip it horizontally and stuff like that, just so that way you're getting all the perspectives possible so you can make sure that it's coming together the way you expect. And I would imagine with movies, the essentially doing that, it's harder to do that with a movie than it is with a illustration, because with a movie you essentially have to sit down and watch the damn thing, and obviously in the early part of the process you just can't do that. But once edits start coming together, you can step back. But it's just like, to me, it's like they were like in the details and the things working on this, and it's like, okay, this is gonna look good and we're gonna do this, and I think this is gonna work. And then they step back and they were like, oh sweet Jesus.
Right. It's like, man, this foot is amazing. This foot's amazing. I love this foot. Man, this arm's amazing. I love this arm. This arm's great. Man, this long hose is great. I love this long hose. So what'd you build? I built
a testicle.
An outfit? No. I was a person. You're a person. I'm just building a horse. A horse. It's like what happened?
Yeah.
Because like you're saying, it's like they weren't able to see the whole picture, and I think it is on a fundamental level. Again, we're speculating, but just from what we've seen, the evidence has punched us in the nuts. I think on a fundamental level, the script, I can't imagine this script the way it was being like given a hard thumbs up, because there was like we established very early on. I literally asked you like halfway through. I said, "What's the plot of this movie?"
Yeah,
and you're like,
I still don't know.
Yeah. The only thing I can say is the A story, as it were, is the love story between Peter and Gwen. And you and I went back and forth as far as the strength of that, but ultimately we definitely agreed that was the best part, and it was the most charismatic. They had great chemistry. But amidst that, there was so much other chaff, and even the way that love story was handled sometimes is like a little questionable. So it's like if the whole movie you wanted to do is just a love story between Peter and Gwen, and there happen to be villains involved that get involved in things or whatnot, you still gotta give the villains a reason to be around in this story. Like the story where Gwen Stacy, spoilers, the story where Gwen Stacy dies It just had the Green Goblin. Now, the Green Goblin had been built up for a while before that in other issues. He had become Spider-Man's rival in lots of ways. And Gwen had her own autonomy. She was doing her own thing. And pretty much there were two coinciding storylines that matched up as to where Gwen's story and Green Goblin's story and his involvement with Peter Parker and Spider-Man all coincided. And it made sense. It was compelling narrative all around. In this movie, the villains were kind of just like thrown in, almost like they were thrown in. They really didn't have any motivations, any purpose. They were literally just there. And there's so many of them too. It's like, this is, I don't understand.
Yeah. There was zero need for, like really, and this is unfortunate to say, and I do want to say, like, I know, you know, we've built creativity and progress to be a positive place. Like, we try to be positive about things. We try not to be, you know, like, oh, this friggin' sucked. You know, like, we try not to be like that.
But this is noobs in progress. So at noobs, we can be as evil as what? No,
here's where we shit on everything. No, but in reality, like, I think we're, you know, we're not, like, we didn't like this movie. We're not doing it to be like, oh, look at that, they're stupid. It's more just trying to pick apart and figure out why. Like, like what?
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, and
what happened?
like, yeah, like what happened? Like what could have gone differently? What could have been better? We will focus on the things we liked.
Of course.
But like, I'm gonna say, and the reason why I put that in that preamble was, we have of the three villains, arguably the worst one should have been the only one. Like, yes. Electro and Rhino should not have been in the movie at all. They should not have been. They just shouldn't have existed.
And they were very poorly portrayed. I mean, I get it. Dane DeHaan wasn't portrayed that well as the Green Goblin either, but at least they did give him some momentum. They gave him some, you know, he was an active character.
Yeah.
He wasn't just sitting around. He was trying to do something. He was genuinely trying to get himself cured. He had a story around him. He was involved in plots of some nature. So yeah, but obviously the Rhino and Electro, there's so much. Electro's actually on screen a lot more than as the villain, a lot more than Green Goblin.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like he's not doing much. He's just a kind of literally a pretty light, distracting light.
Yeah. In fact, I think one could argue that this movie is as close to a 1960s Amazing Spider-Man comic as there ever has been written. Really, if you think about it, because unfortunately, if you transpose a comic directly to a movie, it's not gonna be good. Because typically the comic, the comic is gonna have like scenes here and there where, you know, there's the love story, will they, won't they, kind of, you know, thing that kind of pops in and out. That was very common back then. And then it would be, oh, villain of the week. Oh, it's Electro. Wee. Yeah. And might be one or two issue arc. And then, you know, and in the background, there's the Green Goblin and all of that. And then they might hint at the Rhino, like the next story arc is going to be the Rhino. Excuse me.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It really is almost like a 60s comic.
Yeah, and it's just like, but the problem is that it doesn't work. Like it just doesn't work as a film, because even though with my analogy, I'm still talking about a 3 to 4 comic, you know, package, that still doesn't work, because those 3 comics are relying on the comics before and after to carry it. And this movie kind of relied on the first movie, but not, because it changed stuff.
Not so
you
much.
know.
Yeah.
And then like it's almost like there's part of me that wonders that they just knew. They were like at a certain point, you know, maybe it was during editing, maybe it was during filming, who knows, that they just got to a point where they were like, oh, we're not getting a third. Okay. Because like, if you think about it, they really didn't set up a sequel. Like they did with the Rhino, but that was like probably the most half-assed setup I've ever seen, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
well, as far as Spider-Man's story, it doesn't really need a sequel, but they have the trailings, because they literally were trying to set up the Sinister Six movie, which is why when you see the Hat Man, the unknown hat guy, which they never did explain who he was in the first film and the second film, you see him walking in that hallway towards I guess there's a part he's walking in the Oscorp lab, and you see the octopus, Dr. Octopus arms, you see the vulture wings, and it ends with him like seeing the Rhino suit basically because they're setting up the Rhino to be in that movie. So they literally were trying to set up a Sinister Six spin-off film by itself. But you're right, as far as Spider-Man's story or Peter Parker's story, it could have been it's very much self-contained because the love of his life dies. He's not really doing anything else. There's no ongoing story that he needs. He's kind of gotten closure with his whole family backstory. He knows who his dad was. That kind of like it kind of could just be on his own.
Yeah, yeah. It just like it seemed like they like and I honestly don't remember who the writers were, but it's almost like they just pulled a couple comic book writers over and said write a movie, and they were like okay,
but not even a good one, because even comic books at least try to, like, for example, if Electro showed up, Electro would have some plan. Electro's like, okay, what I'm going to try and rob this bank, and Spider-Man stops him from that bank. Or then Rhino shows up. Rhino's like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and take this person hostage. He does that. That's his plan, and Spider-Man has to foil that. In this movie, it's like, wait, what's going on? What's your plan? What's happening? What wait,
what's happening? What's happening here? Yeah, like, well, and that and that's the thing, like, because I honestly that movie was 2.5 hours long, and I honestly do not remember. Like, I don't remember what filled it up. Like,
it's like what's going on? Yes. Yeah. It's for a movie to be that long and have that little in it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because it just with the and they also did things, we talked a little bit about it like during the watch along, like the thing where they were they didn't have Norman be Green Goblin, which I didn't care for, because I've always liked the idea, like I like that dynamic of Norman Osborn becoming the Green Goblin. Peter is still friends with Harry. He knows that Harry's dad is the Green Goblin, but he's still trying to be friends with Harry. And, and Harry's like, Spider-Man sucks. And Peter's like, no, he doesn't. Why? Right. Why do you like him? Because he looks sexy in that suit. Like, I like that dynamic. The fact that they just skipped that was annoying. And then the way they skipped it was annoying was the fact that they were like, he was like, oh, you've got this disease too. It's going to kill you too. And it's like, okay, well, you're probably in your 50s, probably late 50s. He's like supposed to be 19. So, oh no, it's going to kill him in 30 years. It's like,
nope. They actually say, well, for some reason for Norman, it's way in the future. For you, it's today. You die much younger because reasons.
Yeah. And even if you try to explain it away and say like, well, Norman, spent all his money trying to, or not spent all his money, but like focused in to keep himself alive longer. Okay, well, can't Harry do that too? Like,
right. Yeah, exactly. Plot holes. Yeah. Fun plot holes.
Yeah. Like, jeez. Yeah.
It was contrived. The idea of him. Don't worry. We will discuss the things we like. There's not a lot of them.
We'll get there.
We'll eventually get to the but the idea is that they made it kind of contrived because Harry shows up out of nowhere, and he sees Chris Cooper in bed, and I believe he's shot for what, an hour and a half, 2 hours. He's in bed, and he says, "Oh, by the way, you're gonna die. Good night." It's kind of like he's almost just there to give Harry a death sentence.
Yeah,
that's the only purpose he serves in the film. Like you said, it would have been cool if Harry had been built up in the first film. We'd seen the relationship that Harry and Peter Parker had. Therefore, we are emotionally invested in their relationship. Therefore, when they start fighting, we're like, oh no, this is pretty bad. We don't want this to happen. We like our friends to be friends. We feel so much more with it. Or if we at least seen Norman Osborn in the first movie, and we saw him coughing a bit here or there, or saw something alluding to it, then in the next film when he's in bed dying, it's like, okay, that makes sense. But no, it's just kind of like we're throwing all this at you right now. Get ready. Here you go.
Yep.
And it fell flat, and it feels contrived.
And like a lot in the films were like that. Like a lot in the film was like that, where
you call this a film? Well, easy friend.
Oh yeah, that's right. I'm sorry. I refuse. Yeah, that's in the movie. because like there was a lot of that in the movie where, and it happened in places like, a little bit of a teaser for something I liked. Like it would happen in scenes where I liked the scenes themselves, but the purpose of the scene was just bizarre. Like the fact that they
Yeah.
threw in this thing where Aunt May was pissed off at Peter's dad because there's a possibility that he ran off with the money but died before he could get away. What? Like what
Yeah.
why? There was no need for that. There was no need
No.
for that. And it
No.
but it was in a scene I really liked. Like the scene
It was
itself.
very well acted, very compelling.
Yeah.
It's, oh, this is good emotion. This is good stuff. But also, it's like, wait a minute, wait.
Yeah.
This scene is just to have Aunt May, seemingly out of nowhere,
Yeah.
express her anger, her built up resentment for several years towards
Mhm.
Peter's father. And again, I'm not even sure. I'm not sure if you know. Maybe it's in the comics. I don't think it is though. As far as is actually from Peter's parents, out of his parents, who's actually biologically related to May and Ben? Is it
I
is it his father? Is like is it his brother
it's
with somebody? Or
well, yeah, I think it would be the father because I think it's Ben Parker and May Parker. So the name, it would be the
the
father.
name? Okay, yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. It's okay. So it's
So
so I'm guessing by that it would be his dad. His dad is directly related to Ben.
yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
his dad's the younger brother of Ben.
You
And
can brother Ben.
Aunt May is so essentially she's talking about a brother-in-law.
Brother-in-law. Right.
Which okay, like that's fine, but it just seemed like it was out of nowhere. Like it just seemed,
No, 100%. It didn't seem like
Yeah.
it, my friend. It seemed like it. It's like saying, Niagara Falls seems wet. No, my friend, it's wet. Niagara Falls is very, very damp.
Yes, yes.
It was 100% out of nowhere because it wasn't like, again, there was a first film. And in that first film, it wasn't like May, because again, you could have a scene where May was talking to Martin Sheen, Uncle Ben, like, about something that happened. There's a part, there's some plenty of good scenes in the first film. And it could have been a scene where when Peter storms off, she could have said something like, well, just like his dad, he leaves in a huff, or just like his dad, he runs off. Something
Yeah.
like that. You could have dropped a couple of very, very simple little, planted a couple quick little seeds with more than like a line or two of dialogue, showing that May has anger or has resentment towards Martin Sheen's brother for what he
Yeah.
did or whatnot. And then it could almost boil it up to this big huge scene, which would have been a great payoff for what you've planted. But they didn't. And so it's like, why is May doing this? I mean, I on a fundamental level, I get it, but it came out of nowhere, and it's kind of like, what the hell? And the problem is, it is a good scene,
Yeah.
but it's a good scene that doesn't belong in a way. It's not, doesn't serve any purpose. And also, they don't revisit it. It's not like Peter listens to what his aunt says, and then he processes it, and he realizes, I hate my dad. My dad's an asshole. He did these things to her. And Peter tries to console her later on, and she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. This is what happened," and kind of thing. And they work it out. It's like, no, here it is. Your dad was an asshole, and then she starts, literally diatribing about something else. And it's like, okay, all right, that happened.
Yeah.
So
Well, and that's the thing. Like they tried, and we mentioned this before, is that I think what they were doing is they were trying to have their cake and eat it too. They were trying to create emotions and experiences, but without the setup. They were
yes,
yeah, like they basically
yes,
because
exactly what it was.
they tried in some cases, like with the May thing. Like I think there were two scenes with her prior to that in the movie with her, and in
Probably.
both scenes there's a slightly awkward
Yeah.
like moment, and I cannot stress enough, it's a moment in each scene where the dad is brought up. She kind of does a shifty-eyed like, yeah, and then they move on. And I think to them that was okay. We've set up the scene. Let's go. And it's like,
We planted it.
yeah, no, you've planted nothing. Like, and
Exactly.
and that was the thing. Like there was just no, and it was the same thing. And it was the same thing with Electro, where they were trying to build up the fact that he was this genius, this unacknowledged genius. And we discussed it, that it's essentially, it was essentially the Riddler from Batman Forever. But the difference is that in Batman Forever with Jim Carrey's Riddler, they I think they did a good job in just a few scenes establishing genius, underappreciated, boss is an asshole. Um, Bruce Wayne comes in and goes, this technology you've made is amazing, but it is extremely unethical and I'm not going to fund it. I'm sorry. And then that's what makes him snap because he was, a little
Right.
obsessed with Bruce Wayne.
Right.
And
what you were describing is motive. They gave motive.
yeah,
all around.
and they
motive.
did it very quickly in a very short period of time. Admittedly, still not a great movie, but they did it better than this.
It's still a direct. It's a coherent narrative.
Yeah. Yeah, and here it was just they did this thing where he's a little weird, he's a little awkward, a little cringy, and then they have a scene where he bumps into his boss, and his boss like makes him tells him off, and then his boss makes him stay after work because apparently the power company in New York doesn't have staff after 5 p.m. Okay,
Right.
So and then they were like, okay, yeah, now we've established that. It's like you've established again nothing. You've planted nothing.
Right.
Yes,
it's. I love how because we're talking about it in the ideas, like you said during the watch along, was the ideas of trying to say, of course, he's unacknowledged and he feels downtrodden, but they show BJ Novak, his boss, not unacknowledging him, just being kind of a dick to him. So he's definitely acknowledging him. It's not like there's a part in the movie where I think that the Electro says, or Jamie Foxx says something of the idea of like he invented something or did something for the system.
He designed the grid. I think it was what it was.
He designed the grid or something like that. And it's kind of like, yeah, that's great. I'm glad you did that. But so is that, do you have built up resentment that the world has acknowledged that you that one moment that you mentioned is it's very brief and doesn't really, it's not solidified enough. The biggest thing is that it kind of shows that he feels like a bit of an outsider, I guess. You go to his apartment, it shows that he's kind of an obsessive stalker type a little bit, but nothing's really clear. There's no real clear character because, like you mentioned, Jim Carrey, you were establishing his character very, very well. They didn't really establish his character very well either. And so when he freaks out on Spider-Man, like you forgot my name. You forgot my name. It's like, so that's your thing. Is really, you feel like you're unremembered. Is okay, I guess.
Yeah, like it's It seems like they couldn't decide. It seems like they wanted, like, because there's a couple ways you can take that character. You can make him the super creepy stalker. You can make him the like, oh, sad, feel bad for, pitiable person. You can make him the underappreciated genius. Like, and I think they tried to go every direction and ended up going half measure on all.
Here's the thing. I think that bumper sticker should be on this movie as a whole. They tried to go every direction and went nowhere. Because they did that for Electro. They also did that for like the idea as far as all these separate diverging plots. They clearly did that with trying to set up the Sinister Six movie. They were like, well, let's plant some seeds here and there and make sure that movie is established. By having multiple villains and showing all these different costumes without actually focusing on one villain in this movie and telling a story with that villain. They had the love story with Gwen Stacy and Peter Parker, but even that if you remember at the very beginning, and we talk about this, and I see your point, but they had it where it opens, and Peter is still very much there together. He kisses her at the graduation. Then I guess the very next scene, he's supposed to go to the restaurant with them. And he's out and he's standing out there saying, "No, I can't be with you anymore. Your dad. I still see your dad." He hugs me, and she's like, "No, I break up with you. I break up with you." He walks off. Then I counted it. Literally 17 minutes later in the film, she's like, "Let's get back." She's hitting him up. Let's get back together again. It's like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
It wasn't. You're all over the place. You're having together, separated, then together. If you're gonna do that, give some reasons as to why this is happening. Make it a little more organic. Make it make sense.
Yeah.
This isn't real life. I know in real life, teens break up and get back together again all the time. There, I'll give you that. But in a movie, things should be more organic and make more sense. There should be a cause and effect. And there really wasn't enough of that in general with these movies. There was this movie. It was just like you said, they wanted to evoke an emotion without setting it up. Or doing the legwork on it first. Yeah.
Well, and that's like that's actually a perfect example of them trying to have something happen without building the payoff. And we discussed it during the watch along, was like, I think if they had just added added and then removed a lot more. But if they just added like
Right.
one or two scenes of like maybe the scene where, you know, where Spider-Man's where he's spider stalking her and like, you know, he sees her walking and she sits down with friends. If they
Yes.
had a short follow-up scene of her of like a friend going, what's wrong? And she goes, oh, nothing. And then she's like scrolling through her phone and then like stops on Peter, like a picture of Peter. And the friend goes, why don't you call him? Like you're, you know,
Yes.
like you're obviously still in love with him. Just give him a damn call.
Right.
And you know, just that and maybe one more scene like that would have
Yeah.
made that phone call that like, hey, hello, oh, you want to see each other, would have made sense. But the fact that it was
Yes.
just completely out of the blue was like, what? It
Well,
just didn't make
plus
sense.
it didn't make sense, but plus they established a clear motive as to why Peter didn't want to be with her, which actually made sense. And I was like, okay, that's cool. They actually showed Dennis Leary's ghost, and I don't think he had any script, any lines. He said
No, yeah.
they said, Dennis, when you come back for this one movie, for the sequel, I will come back if I have no lines and can stand in place. But Dennis, we're paying you money, no lines in place. He's like, fine. So he stands around giving him the kind of like, how dare you, disapproving cockblocker father face, and it seemed clear like Peter, like, you know what, I do value, I want to keep Gwen safe. So I'm not. I can see you now. You're like, you're gonna practice your face for your daughter later on when she grows up.
Well, no. What what's in my head is I wish and I hope that this happened. That Dennis Leary, like while he's doing that scene, like he goes up to the director and says, "Okay, I've changed my mind. I have one line I want to say." And the director goes, "Well, okay, yeah, let's see. What is it?" I want to appear over Peter's shoulder and go, "I watch you fuck my daughter," and then have that be the reason that Peter's like, yeah, no, because that would be believable to me.
Of course, that's the most believable thing ever. Yes,
because just seeing, because like that's another thing about the movie that's a little weird is the fact that we only see Dennis Leary like in 2 or 3 ghost scenes in the beginning.
Earlier on,
and he's gone. Yeah. It's gone. And
gone.
Even when they get back together, we don't hear from him again.
Like, I know. This written, people sat down, wrote it, got paid cash, paid their rent with the money they made from this.
It's like, what did that final breakup exercise him? Like what happened? You know?
Yeah, it's just you see like Peter like start shaking and everything as like the ghost blasts out of him like split peas soup or something. But they did. The thing is, they did. I actually liked it. I was like, this is pretty cool because it makes sense of him being haunted by his past, being haunted by, because they established it very well that the father did in fact tell him this, and having him just see him. It was a cool mechanic. I actually liked the first time I saw the movie. I was like, well, it's actually a cool mechanic having him see the ghost, literally see the ghost of Dennis Leary. That's it. And it's more effective just for him to see it as opposed to him talking to him. Great. Yeah. But then Gwen dumps him, and he's cool with it. He's like, after presumably a day and a half, I'm not sure how much time actually passes, he's like, you know what? Fuck that ghost. I'm gonna go back with Gwen. It's like, and he's over it. There's no, the dilemma he was having is completely gone.
Gone.
Okay.
It makes it like, so, you know, like I do want to get to what we liked about it, but one quick thing.
That's become our catchphrase for this episode. I do want to get to what I like about it. Oh, we're out of time.
Yeah, we're out of time. Yeah. But before we get there, I do want to throw in one final thing about what I didn't like about the movie that disappointed me. Mm-hmm. Was the only good fight scene was the fight scene they didn't finish at the very end of the movie, where it's like it was set up to be an awesome fight scene. Like
it was shaping up ready. Nice. It was shaping up real nice, actually.
All the other fight scenes were horrible. Like they were not, and you know, and I feel bad saying that because I know, like, you know, I don't like saying people's work is bad, but at the same time, that like it was hard to keep track of what was going on. They were kind of being a little too slapsticky in parts, like the part where he's like juggling the uranium, you know,
uranium.
Yeah, like it was just really weird. And then there was a bit about what was the Gwen thing, like with her falling, like every person who is like more than just passively aware of Spider-Man knows what was happening in that scene. Like they knew Gwen Stacy's gonna die. She's falling. Yeah. He's gonna try to save her with the web, and her neck's gonna break.
Yeah.
It was what, 3 times before and that's before it's the final time where he does it and her neck breaks and heads hit, like, I don't know, they made it seem like her head hit off the floor too.
Because you can hear a sound. You hear, I'm not sure if it's a smash, the quick hit of her head, or if it's like a snap of her back. But there is a sound in there. I've seen it twice. There is a sound in there.
Yeah. But it's like, but the thing is that, like, that scene, like, I wish I had timed it so I could say, but the scene from
you can watch it again. You can watch it again if you want.
No. But that scene is just so long, and, like, at that point I'm just like, just do it, just kill her. We know it's gonna happen. Let's just
kill her.
Let's just end it so we can get to the grieving Peter, you know, and it's grieving Peter. That sounds that sounds
that sounds like my love life. Yes.
It sounds like a bad medicine commercial. It's like, do you have grieving Peter?
And Dennis Leary stays behind you. He's like, you fucked my daughter.
That's grieving Peter. That's grieving Peter.
That's you have grieving Peter.
Oh my God. Well, come on down to Joe's exorcism. We can get rid of that grieving Peter right for you, right quick. But anyway.
Why are we alive? Please continue.
But yeah, it just, like, it was just that scene just drove me insane. Like, I was like, you know, and then to be followed up very soon. The next fight scene is the one that ends, and it's like,
so there's so many things there that I agree with. Want to touch on real quick. A lot of these scenes, they felt because the CGI was pretty good. It was pretty good, but it was still fairly evident. So the big climactic battle with Spider-Man versus Electro, it didn't have any weight because you can tell that it's all CGI. There's a couple moments where you see where I guess Andrew Garfield wasn't a costume or what have you. They were pulling stuff, but that's not a fight scene. That's just him on his knees pulling the spider webs to try and connect something. The actual part where he's jumping around on the electrical node, giant electric nodes or what have you, that stuff, it felt like I was watching a video game. So I didn't feel, I wasn't invested in it. I wasn't involved with it. In the MCU, there are plenty of movies that have lots of special effects and things of that nature, but they find a way to still ground it at times so you're able to get a grasp on, oh, this is the weight of the situation. This is how much this punch would hurt. Like when Thanos fought Iron Man at the end of Infinity War, right? They're on a huge CGI background. They're both of them are more than CGI characters because Robert Downey Jr. doesn't actually have a whole Iron Man suit. They're throwing punches, throwing moons at each other, doing all kinds of stuff. But there's a definite, like, you can feel the actual weight. You can feel the gravity as what's happening. You can feel the actual tension when Thanos throws a punch at somebody, hits somebody in the face. It felt palpable. This didn't feel palpable. It felt weightless, and so that takes away from the impact of the fight as well. You were right that the best fight scene that was being set up was definitely, it was set up to be the best fight scene too, because it's Green Goblin or Harry versus Peter Parker, his friend, you know, and so. And they're aware of it too. It was actually kind of a good moment getting to the goods. It was a good moment when Harry Osborn on the glider shows up, and he looks at Gwen, and he looks back at Spider-Man, and you can tell as the gears turn his head, he's like, oh, and he doesn't actually say it out loud. He stands there for a while, and he gets a little sinister smile on his face, and he knows, and we know, oh, he figured out that they're one and the same. That Peter is in fact Spider-Man. It's a cool moment. And once he figures it out, the best thing is next is that Peter's like, oh no, and then he goes like he chases after Gwen. It's all subtle, it's all done really well. It's all subtext, no dialogue, but it works really well. That's a good moment. And it starts off into a fight that you actually are kind of invested in for the first time because he's going after Gwen. Because he wants to hurt Peter the way Peter essentially hurt him. And for better or worse, the best part of this movie is the relationship between Peter and Gwen. Now, again, I know that she's going to die, or at least she should die, but it's still setting up the tension as best it can, given the circumstances. And the way that it goes up to the top of the clock tower, and you see him trying to fight him, the actual closer combat between the two of them, it seems that they're putting effort into that fight. But it's very, very short. And then Peter's on his back trying to save Gwen. So it's a situation where they have it's so much lost potential because they're trying to stuff so much in at once. It's frustrating.
Yeah, it was just it uh makes me sad. But
it makes me sad too.
let's jump to the shining bits of the film.
Of
that
course.
We've touched on
look at the
briefly.
time. It's thanks for coming.
Well, but no, I do want to give Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield. I want to give them their due because my God, like every time they were on screen together, I was like, I want to see a rom-com about them. Like I want to see this. I want to see this happen. I want to see it now. You know,
you cried several times.
Yeah, several times. No, that was the fight scenes. The fight scenes were just so
oh,
bad.
that's why. Okay, that's what it was. I thought you had grieving Peter, but you got past that. Okay,
grieving Peter. Yeah, no, I got over that years ago. But anyway,
the warden.
Oh God, so many jokes I can make. Anyway, so, but it was a good. They were good scenes. They were like the you know, I want to date you, I don't want to date you, but your dad's ghost is haunting me. Like that that stuff notwithstanding, the actual scenes with them were great. Like they were like, yo, this is I like this. I like
it was
them
enjoyable.
Highly enjoyable. And Emma Stone was amazing. Like she I think she did a fantastic job. I love her. I think she's just awesome, and I think she did great in this movie.
I couldn't agree more.
She was the best thing about the movie to me. Like
I would say she was the best thing. Second best was the relationship with her and Peter Weber. But she alone was the best thing. I believed everything she said. She was captivating. I mean, and from what I've heard, from what I understand, she actually is a natural blonde, but she dyed her hair red years ago to actually break into Hollywood because you stand out more. There's so many people blondes running around, or bottle blondes running around. She wanted to stand out. And also, as we talked about during the watch along, at this time, Andrew Garfield and her were a couple. So the chemistry you're seeing between them is a lot of it actually is real. In the first film, they were into each other. I don't know if they were actually dating yet, but that's the reason there's chemistry in the first film is because they were clearly into each other. And in this movie, they were still dating, so it's that much more present. And as far as it being those scenes being very well shot, it's because this is Mark Webb. He's the guy who made 500 Days of Summer, which is a great, more or less rom-com of sorts. There's definitely it's focused around romance and things of that nature and heartache. So this is his ballpark. Despite his last name being Webb, Spider-Man may not be his ballpark. so yeah, I completely agree. The best scenes, best moments were definitely between the two of them. It was I would gladly watch a movie with them, a movie with Grieving Peter. Yeah, absolutely.
And the movie will be called Grieving Peter.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think that was really good. And look at the time. I think that's it. Like I hate to say it, but there's really like
there is one other thing that you and I did agree was pretty cool was the way Spider-Man's outfit.
Yes.
Yes, but Spider-Man's outfit, the most of the time when you saw it on screen, it looked because it was such a bright. It definitely looked different from the first film, which basically kind of meant like a basketball kind of texture. This one looked a lot closer, about as close to the way the Spider-Man outfit would look in a comic book brought to life, essentially. Had the big eyes, which were really cool. He was kind of gaunt, not gaunt, I'm sorry, but kind of, he was lithe, kind of like Spider-Man is in the comic books too for most of the time. And it worked. Seeing him on screen, there are lots of times, lots of shots where I saw him either perched up on a windowsill or he was doing the web swinging. The web swinging was really great too.
Yeah,
and
that's right. That's another thing that was amazing. Yeah, the web swinging was really great. They got a couple. I really appreciated the fact they got a couple of the McFarlane poses. Of like,
100%.
Like where he's like kicking his one leg up and the other leg's up. I don't think I've been able to ever get into that position even when I was young. But
Grieving Peter affects us all differently, so that's fine.
Oh yeah, but I think the web swing was done really well. In fact, I think that was probably the best technical, what you call it, special effects. Thank you.
No,
brain not worky. But
I wasn't
yeah.
sure what you were.
Yeah, like
But
the special effects, I think that they were the best special effects because they, it just really looked cool. There were definitely a lot of times where I was like, oh, I remember that pose, and oh, that's a pose,
yeah.
and they didn't do it as much in the first couple films with Tobey Maguire.
No, not as much at all.
Yeah.
They definitely had him lip syncing around, but it wasn't iconic
Oh, yeah.
like you like adapted from the comic book. And so it's a
Yeah.
fun little nod to the hardcore nerd fans,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other bit too that I think was that you mentioned that I hadn't actually thought about too much, but I think you're right. I think I really liked Andrew Garfield physically as Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Like not so much the character, like I think he was an okay Peter Parker, and I think
Sure.
Spider-Man. I like the quips, though there weren't nearly as many quips in this one as there was in the last
Right.
one.
Yeah.
But the physically he matches the comic a lot more because Spider-Man is a little bit more gangly. He's a little bit more like you said, lithe. Where with Tobey Maguire, he seems more squat and just kind of impish.
Yeah.
And really Tom Holland kind of too. Like he's kind of a small Spider-Man. Where this is like tall, kind of still, like not imposing, but tall, like and kind of long and lithe.
Yeah, that's how Spider-Man looks. Yeah. When Spider-Man stands next to people, he looks like, oh, that's a skinny, tall guy. I mean, he's not tall. He's like 5'9", 5'10", maybe. But he's like, oh, that's compared to the other superheroes he's standing around. They're built tough, and he's like, this is skinny guy. That comparison. So I actually like that part. There was something else I like too. This is a cheat because it takes place roughly around the same time as a scene with him and Gwen. But there's a part where he's trying to distract the guards so Gwen can get in the elevator. And he's like, oh, and he's using his spider sense and he's like, oh, let me get this for you. He's like doing this little, it's very much the Laurel and Hardy or Three Stooges kind of bit where he's doing these things, the guards are falling around him, but it's entertaining. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
And it's impressive.
Yeah, and I really like the way they played it off where they like to them he's being like a klutz, but in reality he's actually like subduing them, but he's doing it so well and so adept to making it look like he's a klutz. There's a great Superman comic actually. I think I vaguely remember, I want to say Frank Quitely was the one who drew it.
Probably.
But there's a scene of him of Clark Kent walking into he's walking into the Daily Planet, and there's the first scene of him going into the Daily Planet and the next scene him walking through the office. And in the scene quietly shows like all of the little mini things that he's doing to save people's lives.
Oh that's All-Star Superman. Yeah,
All-Star Superman. And he's doing like all these mini things to save people's lives. And not only that, but also like stop a coffee cup from falling off a table. But he's doing it so fast that nobody in the room knows that he's doing it. Like he saves an old man from a bus and that kind of thing.
But plus he does it in a way where it looks like it's either accidental or incidental. Because he's still kind of hunched over like Clark Kent. So there's one part I remember he had to do something more severe where he had to like kind of stomp his foot to do something, but he made a reason as to why he would stomp his foot, or he had to he sneezed. He could literally sneeze to like stop something from hitting somebody else or to move a person. So it's like those kind of little things that he was doing, but it's like it's very it's a good well done. It's very analogous to the idea of like how a superhero when they're in their alter ego, how would they still be a hero essentially? And go unnoticed. It's very much analogous to that.
And that scene, I immediately thought of that comic scene from Quietly, from All-Star Superman. I just think I just thought it was really good. And I like that scene too. That was really good in Spider-Man.
I love that too. There was one thing I like. I don't know. I don't think you liked it as much as I did, but I actually did enjoy. There's two things. There's a part when he first encounters the Electro in in Times Square. I liked the grand scale of how it's seen Times Square because it looked for the most part like practical effects as far as the background didn't look fake as hell. It looked like actually they had set down Times Square for an hour or so to shoot the scene. But then the crowd, and I liked how Electro actually because in this world Spider-Man doesn't shoot webbing out of his wrist. He actually does have the actual comic book based web shooters, and Electro touches Spider-Man in some way and actually fries one. And so Spider-Man just has one web shooter. And Electro is getting ready to electrocute a whole bunch of people that are running up a bunch of metal stairs. And they show it in slow motion, but obviously the slow motion is meant to be spider sense motion or time. And you see just the idea of like Spider-Man trying to figure out how is Spider-Man going to somehow save all these people, keep them all from getting electrocuted, and do it all with one web shooter. And so just seeing it all play out was kind of a fun little thing. Seeing how Spider-Man thinks essentially.
Yeah. Well, I liked it. I agree with you. I liked that how they handled that piece. What I didn't like, and they did it another time in the movie too, and I can't remember exactly. Oh, it was with the Rhino thing at the end. That's not how crowds work. If I'm in Times Square and I see somebody blowing blue lightning out of their hands, I'm going to be on Wall Street
right
within minutes.
Yes.
And anybody who knows Manhattan knows that that's impossible. And the fact that the crowd was like, it was like they were watching a wrestling match.
It literally was like they're watching the show. They were standing the stand.
Yeah.
Literally while they were watching the show. 100%.
And that's not how crowds work. Like if something like that is happening, even if Spider-Man is there, most people who have a self-preservation instinct are going to get their asses out of there because they're going to be like, even though I love Spider-Man, I would much rather watch him fighting on TV rather than in front of me.
Well, it's not just that though. It's the idea. This is the first time this villain is seen. So people and they see him using electricity and things are getting kind of crazy. It's like, Jesus Christ, I have no idea what this guy's going to do. Let me get the hell out of here. I mean, it's if it was a villain they've seen before where they're much more comfortable with what he can do and not so much surprised, they may stick around to watch the show, but this is his debut. They're like, I have no idea what this guy's gonna do. He's a blue Jamie Foxx. It's Jamie Foxx, but he's blue. Let's get the hell out of here. I completely get that. So yeah, you're right. The crowd control is pretty unbelievable. But that's, I mean, even in the other Spider-Man movies, like there's parts where there's a part. It's a famous scene in Spider-Man 2. If you remember when Doc Ock is climbing up the building. And he passes by the window, and you see one woman in glasses, and she stops, she goes, screams at the window, then she runs to the camera and stops and screams. It's like this, who does that? Who in the middle of a crisis runs to a place that stops and screams like they're on Broadway with the jazz hands? No one does that shit. So yeah, crowd control. I feel like in the Spider-Man universe, crowds are just bred dumb. All crowds are dumb by
worse than them. Because I get that, mob mentality is a thing. Like it's a thing. Like if you're in a crowd of people and for some reason the hive mind decides to do something, but that only works when the hive mind is actually doing something and not just standing there. And like if you're part of a crowd and something shit crazy goes on, you're not going to be going, nobody else is moving, so I'm just going to stay here. You're like, you're probably, if anything, going to be the one to start the stampede away,
Right.
But but that's really why. Like, I know what you're talking about, because during that scene, I was just pissed because they were doing all these crowd shots, and I'm like, there would be nobody there. It would just be police.
Or it'd be chaos. I thought it would be more or less you'd see a lot of people screaming already. Like once Electro emerged and started doing it, because I believe there's stuff that already happened beforehand. I think he had already started electrocuting things. I think he had already started electrocuting screens that started going down. I know he electrocuted a cop car, and Spider-Man had to catch that car. It's like things are already happening enough that people should have been going, screaming and running and run away. That should have been the thing. They should have already been clearing out. That should have been what's happening. There's a good example of that, and I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say, and that would have even if they had been doing that would have worked, because Times Square is a big location. So and they seem to localize it around this one particular area of Times Square. Yeah. And they were making it like, okay, well, it's like, all right, we've got round one of the fight between Electro and Spider-Man.
That's literally what they set it up to be, pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they could have used they could have cheated. They could actually had them people trying to leave, but they're blocked up, and they see them looking over the shoulder trying to get away. And then there's some that are trying to leave, trying to maybe even jump over the stand, because they did start running once they saw the electricity coming, but before that they were just standing there happily. It's like, no, you should have been, if they were in the process of already running, if he had said like, leave, everybody get out of here, and you see them trying to fall out, trying to do something, and then once the electricity comes, they don't have a choice and they start freaking out. That's it would be more believable, and I get that. That's fair. There was one other thing I liked too, and this is something that they did a really good job with this. They did it also in Spider-Man: Homecoming. Spider-Man's tagline, not tagline, his catchphrase essentially is "Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man," and they actually show him doing that a couple times in this. They show him where he drops down, a kid's getting bullied, he drops down, scares off the bullies, and talks to the little kid for a while. Or when he tries to talk to Max, talks to Jamie Foxx, even though it's, it may seem weird, there's a part where he actually is talking to him, he helps him up with the blueprints, then later on, he's talking to him, he's like, I'm trying to figure out your name, let me try to figure out, you see that he's trying to be, as opposed to coming in there just punching in the face, he's trying to be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. That's it. His go-to move is try to be friendly and talk to people. Then when the violence has to come, he'll do that instead. So it's I like that they actually showed that. Actually showed him as a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Yeah, I like that as well. I thought that was interesting that they did that, and I even liked the fact in relation to the Max to the Max character of having that be a little bit of the seed of the obsession of like, oh, Spider-Man knows who I am. Oh my God, I need to shape up. I kind of liked that. But like we said before, since they tried to go every direction with him, it that ended up going nowhere. But I did like the fact that he was like, hey man, you're my eyes and ears, and blah blah blah, and like I thought that was a good way to take it, because it kind of went in with like the banter piece of Spider-Man, because Spider-Man he banters all the time, and I think that worked. In fact, though since then we've had the Tom Holland. And that Spider-Man is amazing in terms of the banter and everything, because like especially
in
like
some movies, I know we're not getting into this that much, but his portrayal in the Russo brothers films. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry. That's fine. His portrayal in Civil War, Infinity War, and even Endgame, that's an awesome banter where it's kind of like as a teenager in a world in over his head, and he's reacting to things and saying things that are funny. He's not even trying to be funny. He just is, because he's a teen. Essentially, the part where he's fighting in Civil War, where he's like, "Hey, you guys ever seen that really old movie, Empire Strikes Back?" He's like, "Whoa!" It's like, "Whoa, this thing doesn't have law of physics at all." Like, that kind of stuff is really fun. But then in the Homecoming, and especially in Far From Home, he didn't have any banter in Far From Home. But yes, you're right though. Otherwise, I'm sorry, I didn't cut you off, but yes, I did.
Oh no, it's fine. I think, and it is a good point, because I think you even see it a little bit in these two films, because in the first movie you have a ton of banter, like there's just constant banter. He's making fun of people constantly while he's attacking and all of that. Where in this movie they pulled way back. They had a little bit of it, but they pulled way back, and I think that's almost like a natural evolution of a Spider-Man film, is that they do that, and it kind of for me it definitely made sense in Far From Home, because in Far From Home he's like, at that point, like shit's getting real heavy, and so I can see them trying to like angle on the thing of like, oh, he's he's trying to deal with all of this crap, kind of thing. And he's like even kind of towing the angsty thing a little bit. I can see that, and it kind of made sense. Where here it just seemed like it was it was like, oh, we forgot something, and what did we forget? Oh, banter. Oh, okay, I'll throw in a line or two.
Yeah, and he still is very vocal. I mean, the part at the beginning where he's with the he's with the Rhino on the truck, and he's like saying everything. He's actually talking to him through the window. He's like, hey, call me Spider-Man, call me Spidey. Just don't call me late for dinner. He's actually making jokes. It feels that scene. I know it's crazy as Paul Giamatti's Nathan Beatty tattoo is across his forehead. It's like that's exactly what Spider-Man would do. He would make chit chat during a high stakes car chase through a city and traffic. That's what he's a goofball at times, and he also uses it to distract his opponents so much that it bothers them to the point where they make mistakes. So I guess so there's still some of it in here, but I think you're right in the idea that it's the evolution of that character too, because in the first movie he's all angst. That first movie is very, very dark. If you remember that first movie, there's very few times where it's like a bright, well-lit shot. It's almost all dark. It's kind of like The Crow meets Spider-Man. It's very, very, very dark, and his mood is very dark. He always has his hood on. So his banter in that movie is pretty malicious almost. It's like he's not trying to like make fun or poke fun at people. He's actually trying to put them down. He's almost bullying the guys the criminals he's fighting in a way.
Yeah.
Is it funny? Sure, but there's a difference. There's a difference with how he is in the first film with his banter as opposed to how he is in the second film with his banter. So
Yeah. In fact, well, it's funny that you mentioned that. I had completely forgotten that he was like bantering like crazy in that first fight scene because I think my brain was still trying to process the Paul Giamatti thing. Because and listeners need to and viewers need to know like that I had not seen and once I found out I had not seen who played Electro or Rhino. And I didn't find out until Ethan told me. And then once he told me, and then we decided we were going to watch it together, I made a point not to look at anything. The only thing I looked at was the cover of the movie on Amazon when I rented it. That was it. So when I saw Paul Giamatti come on with this tattoo and driving a thing, it broke my brain.
It did. I watched his eyes bug out of his head. As he almost dropped his booze in shock. Yes.
Oh God! Like I like you warned me, and I did not know what to expect. I honestly did not know what to expect. But sweet Christ, like I didn't expect that. Like,
well, it's not because it's not just what Paul Giamatti looks like. Because to the best of my knowledge, we've never seen Paul Giamatti fully shaved head.
Yeah.
2, that tattoo that's a choice. Like someone woke up in the morning and said, I want this. They didn't go to the tattoo shop and say, yeah, I'm casually strolling here. You know what I might do? No. That was a hard, premeditated felony. And then 3, his accent. You and I determined that it's probably Eastern European, Slavic, maybe Jamaican, but it is.
Well, see, like. It reminds me of because the whole reason you call me Sergey is because we used to do improv together. Yes. And I would do this voice and you would do similar voice and you called me Sergey, I called you Vlad. And this is essentially what he did, except much more louder and much more like, and
yours is much, much better. Yeah.
No, well,
it's a situation where less is. No, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
All I was gonna say was that it's a situation where less is definitely more. That's all.
Oh yeah.
Because yours seemed like a human talking. His definitely, it literally seemed like a cartoon character. There was nothing real about it at all.
Yeah. That was something we did note, and I think it's true with Paul Giamatti. It's definitely true with Dr. Doofenshmirtz or Doofenshmirtz or whatever.
Oh yes,
the torturer guy who was torturing
Phineas and Ferb.
The Phineas and Ferb bad guy who decided to make a cameo in this film. This movie.
Thank you.
But like even I would even argue Jamie Foxx and maybe the Green Goblin when he went full Goblin.
When he went Green Goblin,
yeah. They like all of those voices, I think would work fine in a cartoon, but on a real set, like coming out of real mouths, there was a cognitive disconnect there. There was a dissonance there that was just like, what?
Too much.
Yeah, it was too much. Though I will say probably the biggest the thing that made me so was the very last thing before Spider-Man subdues Paul Giamatti's Rhino guy. When he's not the Rhino, when he's still just like Russian thug number 4, is when he's the last one. He's got the last bit. He's got like an AK-47 or something. And he's standing there trying to shoot at Spider-Man, and he's doing the old school, like somebody in a movie hasn't done this since the 1970s thing where he's like spraying it side to side into the air.
Yeah.
And it was like, what? Like God. Anyway, I'm sorry. We're slipping back into what we don't like.
We're slipping. We're slipping. We fell head over ass.
We fell
backwards. But yeah. But actually, but ironically enough, I like that part only because I was watching your face, and I was laughing because I was like, I waited a month plus. I'm sure how long I waited for this since the first episode of when we actually watched Amazing Spider-Man. I've waited to see your reaction to this, to the legendary Paul Giamatti, Oscar-nominated Paul Giamatti, John Adams. I almost said Sam Adams.
Yeah.
John Adams himself. Can you imagine? How did his agent talk? It's like, what is going on? What is this?
Here are the two things that I really hope. I hope this is the case, and this is this is genuine. This is me not being a smart ass or anything. I hope that Jamie Foxx, Paul Giamatti, especially those two, really Paul Giamatti, I hope they were paid well.
Right.
I hope that they got a really nice paycheck out of this.
Yeah.
And I hope they had the time of their lives. I really do.
You know what? That last thing you said, it makes a lot of sense. I bet you they're like, you know what? We are serious, dramatic thespians. This seems like a fun role to do. Even though Jamie Foxx's character, once he became Electro, he was pretty somber for the most part. But it's still the idea of him being a powerful being. I get it. There's got to be an allure to actors to be able to let their hair down and be a over the top kind of a character or a villain. I know actors love you're an actor. Actors love to be, villains. It's fun. So I get that. That's fair. I bet you. And I bet you. I'm hopeful that they did in fact have fun doing it. I'm hopeful that they did. The part at the very end.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, all I'll say was the part at the very end where Paul Giamatti does get the suit to be Rhino. You can kind of see him having fun. He's inside that, even though it's a CGI head inside that thing. He's like, "Aha!" I'm the Rhino. It's like that guy. Yeah. That guy's happy. That guy's happy.
Yeah. Yeah, like I just hope, and I hope that's true for all of them. I hope they all had fun. Yeah. I hope that the backlash after the fact wasn't too rough on them. I know we just spent the last hour, saying that movie sucked, but I think it's not because I think it's not because I think that any of them shouldn't work again or anything. Like, no, nothing like that. I just think that this was a series of decisions that led to a subpar movie. And
yes, I agree. I agree.
And and I hope and I hope all of them are doing well. I guess.
Right. Fair. I don't hold any malice, or ill will towards anyone involved with this movie. I don't. I wasn't like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. I was offended. I wasn't offended by the movie.
Oh, no.
And in all honesty, this is gonna sound really, really bad, but whatever. I was more upset when I walked out of Spider-Man, the original Spider-Man 1, than I was with this, because at least this was bright and colorful, and I liked seeing Andrew Garfield and Emma Stone together, their chemistry. There were times there were action scenes that seemed engaging. The first Spider-Man, when I first saw that movie, I was like, there is no banter. The Green Goblin looks like a joke. None of these action scenes are memorable. The Macy Gray scene where he's jumping on the balloons looks like a PS2 game. And so I was just all around disappointed. And I left that theater feeling kind of pretty upset about it. With this movie, I was like, oh my God, at least I had a reaction. Like you said before, it's better to, you said it other times, it's better for a movie to be bad, really bad and entertaining, as opposed to just mediocre and kind of boring.
Yeah.
So you can see somewhere in the middle. Either really good, really bad, cool. Somewhere in the middle, just mediocre. That's not fun. That's not cool.
Yeah.
Go all out.
Well, yeah, it's like, it's like that thing. Like if you're having people, contacting you saying they love you or contacting you and saying they hate you, at least you're getting a reaction, At least you're getting a reaction. Yeah. 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 But try to get people to love you. Don't try to.
Sure. It's 2020. We need love. We need love.
Yeah.
We need love.
Oh, sweet God. Christ, do we need love?
Please, God. Yeah.
Okay, so on that note,
for making watch. I apologize for making you watch that movie in 2020. I should have said let's watch it in 2022 instead.
Yeah. Hey, no, I would rather just pack it all in 1 year and then, of course, I like how we talk like on January 1st, 2021, everything's gonna be like, oh yeah, we made it out of there. That's great.
Dancing in the streets. No.
Yeah, no, yeah. Oh, 2021 shaping up to be a little.
And on that positive note,
yeah, exactly.
we get to our poised coil.
Oh Jesus Christ! We haven't even done much there. All right, go ahead. Let's.
For me, like all coital, I'll keep it quick. Let's see here. I should have brought it up.
Oh my God.
Nathan Bay, don't ever change. Don't ever change, you grown ass man. Yeah. Oops, I always forget.
Forget where it is.
Oh
man, I don't have my elevator music queued up.
No, I'm a bad person. But I'll go to hell. I'll go to hell. I promise. Nope, not that either. Is it this one? Sorry, folks. We'll edit this in post, or we will keep it exactly in. You be the judge.
Yes, we will do something. We will make a choice.
All right,
and
here we go.
Own it. Here we go. Okay.
All right, sir. So
yes.
Did it live up to your expectations, or did it fall short? Now this is
hard. This is hard because my expectations were like, this movie's gonna be bad. Right. It felt.
And also, how did you expect to see Paul Giamatti? Did Paul Giamatti, like, you were expecting all kinds of lunacy? Did that lunacy exceed your?
Okay. So there's two different ways I could look at this. My expectations is either on the good scale, where I expected it to be bad on the good scale, and it fell short of my expectations of how good it would be on the good scale. Right. Or there's the bad scale.
Worse than you thought it would be. Yeah,
worse than I thought it would be. Or there's the bad scale where I thought it was going to be pretty bad. It exceeded my expectations.
It was even worse than you thought. Right.
Yeah, and Paul Giamatti exceeded my expectations. He actually, I can't say he exceeded because he flew out of nowhere. He like Kool-Aid man through my brick wall and slammed me over the head with "I am the Rhino!" Flank, you know.
Yes.
Though I do want to see a movie of just that character, Paul Giamatti playing that character.
I am dying to, because you even during the movie you said, I want to see more Rhino. I'm dying to see Paul Giamatti as the Rhino. Where is it? Yeah. You actually said that. Yeah.
Just because like I think it was almost like it was like a gimmick, like, you know. But anyways,
clearly.
Anyway, yeah.
Clearly. So I guess. I don't even know how to answer how you could answer. Let's just say, for the sake of saying, that how did the movie? So the movie itself. The question: the movie itself. Did the movie exceed, or did it live up to your expectations, or did it fall short? The movie.
Asked and answered. No.
Because the movie was worse than you thought. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was worse than I thought. Yeah, it was just,
okay. And Paul Giamatti, did Paul Giamatti, as far as blowing your mind?
Blew my mind beyond what I expected. Like I didn't know what to expect, and he even blew that away. Like he was just like,
perfect. That was my Christmas present. Watching you watch that. And it's only what, September? Okay. Next question. Jesus. Did you? This is actually kind of pertains to number one. Did you see what you were hoping to see?
Oh. Yes, I saw Paul Giamatti as the Rhino.
You did.
And
at the very
that's
end.
about it.
Yes.
I didn't see as much of that as I wanted.
No one did. It was the last. Yeah, it was very low. Now, what were you afraid you were going to see?
What I saw.
Yes. My friend, yes.
Yes.
Exactly. There's nothing coy about that. Do you? Well, I already answered this, but I'll say it was. Do you wish you had seen it sooner?
No, because I am glad because the best way, and if and all listeners and viewers take this to heart, take it close to your heart and hold it to your heart.
Please.
If you ever have to see this film, see it with friends. See it with friends and see it in an atmosphere where people aren't going to care if you're chatting, you know, or like, oh my God, did you fucking see that? Like you want it to be like the most silly, have the popcorn going, like kind of see it in that way.
Absolutely.
In fact, I recommend, like I actually would say if you're bored and you're sitting around with friends on Discord or Zoom or whatever, and you got nothing to do, or if it's post-pandemic and you got nothing to do, cue this sucker up on Amazon and watch it together if you want a fun night. And and if you get to a point where you're like, screw this, you can always hit stop, but that's what I would recommend.
But bring booze. Bring hard drugs. I mean hard drugs. I'm talking about like things you cannot buy in most alleys.
I have not drank any of this since the last time since the time we saw the movie. Before we saw the movie, there was this much in there. I killed a quarter.
I'd say it was higher. It was hot because it was closer to the top. Yeah,
I killed a quarter of this during the movie. That's why, like, when we were talking after the movie and about other projects and things, and then like I woke up the next morning and I was like, what did I agree to last night? I can't.
Right. I think it'd be a fun, or dangerous drinking game that every time you scratch your head in disbelief or you have to take a drink and see how long you can go in the movie. Yeah.
I played that game. My liver didn't like it.
No, it did not. But Ethan did. All right, my friend. So here is the last question, and this is we already know the answer to it. Essentially, did you like this movie?
No.
Hard no. However, the experience, the viewing experience, is fairly one of a kind.
Yes.
To see that, there's no replacement. There's no other thing experience as far as seeing Jamie Foxx as a blue condom with an android's voice. seeing Dane DeHaan do his best Keanu Reeves meets Nicolas Cage meets
with less emotion.
And actually, of course, the legendary Paul Giamatti screaming, "I am the Rhino." In several accents at once.
Yeah, that. Well, like I was saying just a minute ago, like while the movie itself, that was probably the most fun I've had in a long time watching a movie. Like the only downside to it is the fact that the only downside to the way we did it was because we were doing a thing, we couldn't fast forward. We had to watch everything. where when you do it with friends, you can be like, oh God, I remember this part. It's shit. Like you could have been like, oh, I saw the next 10 minutes, no reason we should watch the next 10 minutes. Zip, 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 That was the only negative to it, was that it was just so goddamn long.
Yeah. It was, and also we watched it on a Wednesday, and you had to work the next day too. So yeah. Well, my friend, I owe you one. I owe you a solid because I made you sit through this movie. So thank you very much. I appreciate that. We'll get into our next endeavor. Hopefully a good one, possibly a bad one. We'll find out next time.
Yes.
So yeah, appreciate it.
Yep. Yeah, so we'll reveal what we do next time. We'll be back here Wednesday. Hopefully we'll be streaming. We didn't stream this week because of reasons that I'll need to figure out. But we'll be streaming.
It feels like by choosing from the time we said let's do Amazing Spider-Man 2, we were cursed. Like several black clouds flew over our faces and just said, fine, here it comes. You asked for it.
We were fine 48 hours ago. We streamed. We did great. Everything was wonderful. Now,
Yeah. This movie is cursed. This
it is.
movie
It really
is literally cursed.
Well, even when we did the watch along, it was fine. Like it was the watch along.
Mhm.
I was watching a HD movie and it was fine. I don't know.
That's the point, my friend. It's if it wasn't cursed, you wouldn't have seen the movie. That's the you have to see it. That's part of the curse. Seeing the damn thing is the worst. Is the worst alternative.
Oh,
Yeah.
God. But then it's like, but you can't talk about us.
Right.
Oh, God. All right. Well, thank you all for joining. We've got we're at an hour and 20. We need to wrap this puppy up. So
Yeah.
Ethan, do you have anything to say before we wrap it?
No, my friend. Thank you again for sticking with us. Appreciate it.
Yes, and thank you all for watching. We're going to be back next week where we will reveal our next movie, and we'll probably play a little bit of video games. No gaming tonight because, as I said, reasons. So thank you all, everybody, for joining in, and hope you all have a wonderful day.
Johnny Sins.